There are different types of animation. This may be hand-drawn animation, computer-generated, 3D animation, 2D animation, or stop motion. The first hand-drawn full feature film was Disney's Snow White, released in 1937, which would be the first of many Disney classics. We can date the origins of animation all the way back to cavemen. In their paintings on walls, they depict themselves hunting, giving the illusion of movement. We also suggest that with the evolution of finding out about fire, we can suggest may have created shadow puppets and told stories for the use of these animals on the walls. In 1833, Joseph Plateau made a device which, when spun facing a mirror, created an animation formed from different paintings of the same character or figure doing individual movements one after the other. A year later, William Horner created the zoetrope in 1834. The zoetrope was quite similar in the fact that it was circular but spun quite differently. It had slits in which, when you watched, an animation on the inside would be seen, although there was quite a lot of distortion. This was sorted in a device called the Praxinoscope, made by Emily and Reynard in 1877. It was the first device to overcome image distortion, using a mirror inside which mirrored the image around the outside of the animation, so you could see it quite clearly. One of the pioneers of motion picture was Edwin Muybridge. He was an English photographer who was asked to take photos of a horse to see if its feet left the ground at the same time when galloping. In order to do this, he set up camera traps, which had strings attached to a series of cameras, which when the horse ran over the traps, the camera took a photo, which when put together you could clearly see that the horse did leave the ground. The start of cinema really began with the kinetoscope. It's the first device to exhibit footage to be viewed individually. It would have a small film inside which would only play over and over. It wouldn't stop or be rewind. Cinema really began with the Lumiere brothers. They created a crank camera that recorded film. Eventually it led them to exhibit their work and set up the first proper cinemas. Although the film was basic, the first one was of people leaving a workhouse. Another of which they had done was of a train leaving the station, although people at first thought that it was actually coming out the screen towards them, which frightened them. There was also no sound, so people would play a piano to the film whilst it was playing at the cinema. One of the developers of stop motion was Willis O'Brien. He was an American motion picture special effects and stop motion animation, most well known for his 1933 rendition of King Kong, for winning the Academy Award for the 1949 Mighty Joe Young. For this film, he worked with Ray Harryhausen, who was inspired by King Kong. He had a fascination with dinosaurs. During World War II, he joined the unit Why We Fight, which went on to make films. Afterwards, he went on to produce stop-motion versions of fairy tales. O'Brien saw his work and hired him to work on this Mighty Joe Young. Harryhausen was best remembered for animating Seven Skeletons and Jason and the Argonauts, which took 3 months to film and produce. Harryhausen would then inspire Peter Jackson and Spielberg, who have made such films as Jurassic Park and the newly updated King Kong. In terms of today's animators, we can expect the likes of Tim Burton and Henry Selick. Selick worked together with Tim Burton at Disney in the 80s. Selick worked as a storyboard and stop-motion filmmaker. He made short films, commercials, and films for MTV. Later on, Burton went on to ask Selick to direct The Nightmare Before Christmas. Afterwards, without the help of Burton, he went to direct Coraline. With software and technology becoming cheaper and more widespread, lots of people are beginning to make stop motion at home, including lots of which you can see on YouTube. Many people like to animate in Lego since it is so versatile to build and destroy, as well as being readily available in most households with children. Although animation may not be the same as it was in the past 100 years, we have developed CGI techniques in order to animate, which is a lot quicker process and cheaper in the long term. CGI is currently improving all the time. One day it's thought we will not be able to tell the difference between a real person and an animation. It is also used widely across different platforms, such as gaming, in which there is a lot of animated stuff in there now. The actor has different placements of green dots which the camera follows, and then is translated in the computer to create the 3D animation. For example, this was used for Gollum in Lord of the Rings. This gives a much more detailed structure of the face and actual emotions given across in the character. This technique was also used for Davy Jones and Pirates of the Caribbean. He's known for being one of the most believable CGI characters ever made. Virtual reality, or also called immersive multimedia, is a computer simulated environment that can simulate physical presence in places of the real world, or made up places wherever you want to go, really. This is not becoming a thing of the future, it's a thing of the present. With developing technologies, this will soon be widespread across the world. Although now readily available, we have Second Life and The Sims, in which you can create a reality world and control characters in which you could represent yourself. Really, it's about creating your own world and escaping the reality of your life.